Welcome to the Comic Sauce Podcast, where we talk comics and comics culture. I am Henry Liu, and today I'm joined by Porfirio Rangel. Porfirio, how's it going?
Going good, Henry. Just trying to recover, from the week.
Yes, indeed. I am also joined by Christian Diadamo. Christian, how goes?
Hey, goes well. Also, in recovery mode.
I am as well. We are just back from WonderCon 2024. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to do a WonderCon 2024 recap. Today is April 4th, 2024. And yes, WonderCon just happened this past weekend in Anaheim. The three of us reunited in Anaheim and went all 3 days. And yeah, we did a lot and we got a lot to cover here. So let's dive right in, shall we? Although, speaking of April 4th, it must be stated that April 4th, 2024, today is the 10-year anniversary of the release of Captain America, the Winter Soldier. So, maybe we want to do a full movie recap of this at some point this year to honor the 10-year anniversary. I would love to.
Mhm. I would love
Um,
to as well.
I think we should do it. I think we should do it. But since today is like the day, I thought I'd just shout that out real quick, and then yeah, maybe throw it out there into the ether that maybe we'll do a full recap to honor the 10-year anniversary. All right, so on to WonderCon. So we can keep this pretty informal, open-ended, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about some of the highlights. What were some of the highlights of WonderCon this year? You want to start, Porfirio?
I have a lot of highlights.
Sure.
But I guess for me, do I just talk like the biggest highlight or just one of
I
them?
mean, just fire away, whatever you got.
Okay, like I got to meet a lot of cool like comics creators, a lot of cool like pop culture figures, like um Friday met Steve Orlando. He is the current writer for the Scarlet Witch series.
Mm,
Who's pretty awesome. I met I got to take selfies with the voice actors of Morph and Sunspot from the X-Men 97 series.
hmm
Um and then I got like a duet signature from the voice actors of Rogue and Gambit from the 97 series. I attended a Chucky panel and I saw the legendary Jennifer Tilly. Like, I saw a lot of cool celebrities and I got to meet a lot of cool, awesome people at WonderCon.
Nice. That's so cool. And we've mentioned this before, but WonderCon isn't great about like how I should say
Promoting
like
their
yeah,
guests.
promoting their guests. Yeah. Because basically, I mean, for the most part, everyone you mentioned, you like it was kind of a surprise, right? Like I think some of them you
Mhm.
knew, but like it wasn't entirely clear like who is going to be there and to what extent you can meet them, like that
Yeah.
sort of thing, right?
No, yeah, like Steve Orlando, WonderCon, that was one of like the few celebrities or like comic celebrities that Steve Orlando was going to be there, but everyone else, like the X-Men 97 cast, that was not on their program. Um,
Hmm.
we could talk about like the bad promotions about it later, but like I think the 97 cast was like a last minute addition
Hmm.
that yeah, like WonderCon didn't even promote it, and even Jennifer Tilly, I didn't even know she was gonna be part of that panel. Like it, like
Right.
you go to like um the description of the panel for the Chucky thing, and it just says like, oh, the cast is gonna be here, but it doesn't say who. And so when I went to the room and I saw like Jennifer Tilly's like name on the table, I was like, oh my gosh. So I didn't even know she was gonna be there till I walked into the room.
Wow, yeah. Interesting. But yeah, we've seen this before where it's just kind of a surprise, right? Like I was curious myself. Like I know that the X-Men 97 voice cast was a relatively late addition to WonderCon. And, the three of us, we were all pretty psyched about checking out the panel. But in the back of my mind was, oh, I wonder if they're going to have a table. Are they going to sign? Are they going to do photos? And none of that was clear, right? Until like you got to the con and had to sort of like figure it out on your own, right? So, yeah. Yeah, it's sort of the same story where with WonderCon, you have to do a bit of detective work for some of this stuff, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
it like obviously a bit of a negative, but I don't know. I guess maybe they do it intentionally in a way, so there's sort of discovery aspect to it. But yeah, just it's different from other conventions in that respect, right?
Yeah, yeah, what I did was, to find some of these folks, I actually like, I don't know if you guys would do this, but um, like on Instagram, you could look under like the hashtag WonderCon and see like who shares like those kinds of posts. And that's what I did like beforehand. Like
Mm-hmm.
just like searched up like who's using the hashtag WonderCon. And a lot of times it was people who were like artists or writers who said that they were going to be at the event. And that's how I was able to like
Mm.
figure out like, oh, this person's coming,
Right, right.
Ooh,
That's
yeah,
smart.
that's good advice because I did not do that. And
Yeah, I
there's
didn't
like,
really do
Yeah.
oh,
that
I
either.
missed X, Y, and Z. Or
Mm-hmm.
like there's definitely some where it's like you kind of just notice day of or day before, like, oh, that person's gonna be there.
Hmm.
Because one of like, Todd McFarlane had a panel at WonderCon,
Mm-hmm.
one of the biggest names in comics, you could
Yeah.
argue. But he was only there promoting the
Zero
toys,
promotion.
zero promotion on
Yeah.
it, you know.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and so
Yeah, zero
like
promotion.
we found it day of, like or like the day before.
Yeah. I feel like another big name they didn't even talk about was also like Sam Raimi, you
Yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
like again, like legendary director. And I mean, I know he was there like only doing a panel for the next movie he was on, but I didn't even know he was gonna be at the event until I think Henry pointed it out, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, fucking WonderCon's horrible at
Yeah.
promoting their stuff, and
Yeah. Yeah.
this like this self-discovery thing is not working, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of have to dig through the programming schedule very carefully to to find out this stuff on your own. So yeah, a bit of a drawback, I suppose, but I don't know, it can lead to some fun surprises, I guess you could say.
Hmm. Yeah. It was a bit of a fun surprise learning that, it's like, oh hey, Todd McFarlane's here. Let's go see his panel. Let's see what
Yeah,
he's up to.
yeah,
And he
right.
is a lot of fun to listen to.
Yes, yes, he is. Yeah. What about you, Christian? You want to call out some of your highlights?
Yeah, let's see. As far as we did talk about the Tom McFarlane panel,
Mhm.
um, and the X-Men 97 panel. I will say on the X-Men 97 panel, going back to that, that was probably like the most like probably the biggest panel it felt like
Hmm.
in terms of just
Energetic.
general excitement. Like
Hmm.
that crowd was so hyped up
Yeah.
to see these voice actors. And I think before we got there pretty early, I made sure to like get us some good seats and because it was a kind of small, it wasn't in the big ballroom. So people lined up and it was packed. And beforehand, they were doing these cosplay meetups in the middle where someone would just go, "Hey, all right, everyone who's Storm, come up. All right, everyone who's Cyclops, come up." And it was cool to see them all like get together and pose the
Hmm.
camera. People would cheer, and then of course the cast comes out. Everyone's cheering. They're playing the theme song. They played like little like 1 minute segments from X-Men 97. People, which was cool to watch with the voice cast right there after you'd like listen to them talk. And then you'd be like, oh yeah, that's that person. All right. Too bad Beast wasn't there because the clips were very Beast centric.
That's true.
A lot of Beast in those clips. And so that probably was like I think one of the big highlights of WonderCon was that panel, especially and X-Men 97. Oh, so hot right now.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, as long as we're talking about it, I'll talk a little bit about it too. It was absolutely one of my highlights as well. That panel had such awesome energy to it. So, like even before the panel started, you could tell it was going to be awesome because, like you're saying, Christian, they were doing cosplay photos like right before. And I don't know if they planned it out this way. I'm thinking they did plan it out this way because it really added to the excitement. There's a guy who was calling out characters right in the very center of the room, right? It wasn't like off to the side, like, oh, let's do these photos before the panel. It was like, it was part of the panel experience, right? He's like right in the middle, and he's just like, all right, all the gambits, give me all the gambits, come over here. And then he's like, all the Wolverines, all the Storms, all the Jubilees, and it really added to the excitement. And as you kept going, like you could feel the vibe just getting like higher and higher, right? The excitement level was rising. And then by the time he called out Storm, like Storm was one of the last cosplay photo groups he called. Like, I mean, the room was like in a frenzy because when the Storms came out, like the Storm cosplayers practically got a standing ovation. And they were even like, oh my God, this is like they were having a moment. It's really cool to see. And then what you mentioned, Christian, when they announced the voice cast, oh my God, they were blasting that X-Men theme song, and they announced the actors like kind of like a walk up music style, like sports style. And it and everyone was like cheering their favorites, and just the whole scene was like bonkers, right? And it was really fun. So much fun. And like I said, this is even before they started talking. This is before the panel really actually began. But the excitement level was like, at 11 at that point. And the panel was really well run too. They asked good questions, and it was really cool that they had a lot of the voice cast there, but also one of the producers. The producer had a lot of great insights on the making of the show and decisions that were made, and just a great experience. It was like just an hour, but there was just chock full of information and a whole lot of fun. Huge highlight for sure. All right. So as long as we're talking about panels, maybe we can talk about other panels we enjoyed at WonderCon. Porforio, any ones you want to call out?
Uh, I guess like one I kind of it surprisingly was a lot of fun was that Universal Monsters panel that we went to.
Yes. It's called
Like I
Origins of the Universal Monsters on
yeah,
Saturday.
that one. I mean, you guys know me. I fucking love the horror genre and everything. So I think I was the one who brought it up that I was gonna go to that, and then you guys tagged along. And I just, I love horror movies. I love like learning about the history. I'm like just a big like movie like historian lover. And so learning about the history of how like these like films and franchise started, I thought was like really awesome and really cool to learn.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I thought that one was cool too. There was particular emphasis on the Dracula and Frankenstein's monster actors,
Hmm.
Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff, right? So just really deep, deep cut kind of info, and yeah, very insightful.
Yeah, like that was a nice little history lesson. You got like cool little tidbits. Like they all had to do their own makeup. Um, for the most part, it was before a makeup department existed.
Hmm.
There was like you kind of got a big history into censorship in Hollywood from back then, and how because horror being horror, it was so heavily affected by the censorship, and horror movies essentially just weren't being made for a period of time until it was kind of just someone played it in a theater and they got a really big turnout.
Hmm.
And so that they kind of there was like all this big renewed interest for it that ended up like bringing it back. And
Right
of
on.
course, when you look at the censorship of like what was being censored nowadays, you're like, oh, that's not that bad. That's like PG-13
Yeah.
level
Yeah,
stuff.
Yeah.
like of Frankenstein throwing the little girl in the lake, or
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, that
um,
was interesting and how that changes like a plot point from the movie and it wouldn't
it
make sense
yeah.
without it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And interesting
And
too how they're saying that by removing that scene where he throws the girl into the pond, it makes it kind of more disturbing because then you wonder, oh, what did he do to that girl? Right? Your imagination kind of runs wild, right? So,
hmm.
yeah, fascinating. All right. What else? What other panels do we want to call out here?
The Nintendo Quiz Show.
Yes. So the three of us did attend that as well. What was that exactly, Christian?
All right. So that was a fun little game to watch. It was like imagine like a Jeopardy style game show with members from the audience where you had someone and a Jeopardy style board of a bunch of different Nintendo trivia and calling up people from the audience. There was like preliminary questions that people would answer. I think it was what are the three original colors of like the Nintendo 64 controller?
Right, right, right.
And you got those, you could come up and be a part of the trivia show. And that was fun to watch. That was a lot funnier than I think I imagined it being.
Yeah,
And of course, the questions were extremely hard.
yeah.
I've played a lot of Nintendo games myself. I thought I was like, okay, I think I'm good at this. I was way off. I
Hmm.
did like trying to follow along and trying to answer the question yourself. I got like a few of the like the easy ones.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think I only got maybe like two questions,
Hmm.
like not just like the questions like on the board, but like out of like the ones like that he would ask the audience, like because that's even like more, and I feel like I only got like two questions. Like
Hmm.
I did horrible.
Yeah.
And of
Same here. Same here.
mhm. And of course, it's like you may have come across it, but when you kind of hear the question, you kind of blank and be like, I have no clue what that is or who that is.
Yeah, exactly.
But when he kind of says the answer, you go, oh, okay.
I was
I
still
haven't played
confused.
that game in years, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So you might think that uh, questions of that difficulty level would warrant an audience that might be, a bit on the quirky side. And if you thought that, you would be correct because there were a lot of interesting characters watching this panel and, playing the quiz, right? And
Kevin.
there was a guy named Kevin, shout out to Kevin. He was awesome. He's hilarious. He wasn't the only one though. There were like a bunch of really interesting people there. Some might say socially awkward, but they're my people, man. These are awesome people, and they they were so funny that the security people at WonderCon were like cracking up like for the whole hour. They were just kind of giddy and they couldn't believe like what they were seeing. Just like nerd level 12 basically. And it was just yeah, the nerdiness of the situation was just like through the roof. Like the questions that were being asked, the characters that were like involved. It was like, yeah, it was definitely like the nerdiest thing I attended that whole weekend.
Same.
And I thoroughly enjoyed it for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah.
Definitely someone came by and just cleaned shop and got was so far ahead above
Mhm.
head and shoulders above all the other contestants.
Yes. Yeah, there was a clear cut winner. I think his name was
Very clear
Matt.
winner.
But yeah, he cleaned up.
You're like, how do
Props.
you remember that? Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, his knowledge was very deep. Let's see. Maybe I'll shout out a couple here. Um, so let's see. Okay, X-Men fandom panel was Saturday. Universal Monsters panel was Saturday. The Nintendo Quiz Bowl panel was Sunday. Let's see. Oh, Saturday night, you and I, Christian, we attended one called Pop Culture Fantasy Draft, and that was another pretty fun panel. A lot of laughs. It was almost like a comedy show. I think they had a podcast and they do this thing where they you kind of have to state your case, right? You're given a group of pop culture characters and a particular theme, and to be like, okay, if you had a restaurant, um, what role would you have your characters play at your restaurant and why? And then other teams would chime in with their characters, and then the audience kind of like by applause would choose who won. So again, kind of like a game show style, a la the Nintendo panel we went to, but also a lot of fun and just yeah, a lot of good jokes and just um, good times.
Yeah, that one was a lot of fun. Yeah, it definitely was like a lot of like improv comedy, like how,
Yeah, yeah.
and then people, people describing, I think the restaurant was one. Um, I forget the other, I
Oh,
kind of forget the
there's
other
like a
two.
ice cream truck was
Oh yeah,
another.
there was like who would drive an ice cream truck the best
Yeah.
was another one. I think they may have only gotten around to two.
Yeah, they were kind of riffing a lot of the hour. Um, and unlike the Nintendo quiz show, this was kind of more for comedic effect. They
Hmm.
weren't as serious with their answers, and some of the answers didn't even make sense. They were just trying to make it funny, I think.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was fun.
and of course, like some of the characters, you're like, wait, who are they? It
Yeah,
was that one was very kid show like centered. Would you have
yeah.
characters like Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon, Mushu from Mulan?
hmm Yeah.
And I think like the only superhero there was like Rogue. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. So my guess is that they have a podcast and they're doing this like all the time. So they have to have like a huge catalog of characters, right? So it has to get obscure, right? Because otherwise they're just going to run out really quickly. So that's my guess.
Yeah. But it
Because
is
it
a fun
was
idea.
kind of obscure. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying it is like a fun idea, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You have a certain list of
definitely.
characters and you draft them.
Yeah.
Draft them and it's fun to hear like the audience. That was definitely like the most audience focused one panel we went to, you know. A lot of people were kind of
Hmm.
calling things out. People were like they were interacting with the audience. And
Yeah.
of course you mentioned the applause being the
Hmm.
signifier of who won the round.
Yes.
So it had like a very late night feel, you know.
Definitely, definitely. All right, as long as we're talking about panels, I should mention that I, myself, Henry Liu, was on a WonderCon panel. So let's talk about this a bit. The West Coast Avengers, the cosplay volunteer group I'm in, had a panel on Saturday morning, and I had the great privilege to speak on it. I was a panelist, and it was an awesome experience. So I think I mentioned before, I did get to speak on a couple panels for West Coast Avengers at the SF Fan Expo. That was awesome too. But this man, this was kind of like dream come true kind of stuff because I've been attending WonderCon for years. I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys, but I went to WonderCon for the first time, if you can believe this, in 1991.
Oh wow.
This is
Oh
back
wow.
when WonderCon was in Oakland. I was basically a kid, and it was like all comics, as you might guess. But yeah, a young Henry Liu got to meet a young Jim Lee at the time. And it was mainly just like you can you could buy back issues and meet some comics creators. That was pretty much the extent of it. Um, but that's how far back I go with WonderCon. But I continued to attend WonderCon when it got bigger in San Francisco at the Moscone Center. Um, yeah, WonderCon in San Francisco was when it got really big. It was like approaching San Diego Comic-Con level. And they had like big celebrities, big panels. Yeah, I remember going in 2009 and it was huge. Their main room, they had panels for the new Watchmen movie where Zack Snyder and basically the entire cast of Watchmen on stage. They had J.J. Abrams come and talk about his new Star Trek movie, and basically the entire cast was there, like Captain Kirk, Spock, the whole. I mean, huge A-list kind of stuff. So and then cut to this year, still going to WonderCon, and it's a different convention now. But like it was really cool that now I was like on the other side of it. All these years I've been in the audience in awe at these amazing creators and celebrities. Um, and here I was on the other side of the microphone. So huge thrill, huge thrill. A very different kind of vibe from, what I've mentioned, these like huge Hollywood type promotional deals. But just speaking at WonderCon was very cool. And the the panel was like pretty well attended and pretty well received, I think. So I was very happy how it went. One thing I was a little concerned about was that the panel I was on was pretty big. I was one of several panelists. So I was wondering if I would get to say much at all. But um, our moderator, Alice, did a really good job allowing everyone to have a moment to speak. And I felt like I got to talk a lot, maybe too much, you know? So, yeah, again, great experience. And yeah, West Coast Avengers has been really good to me. I've been on three panels for them now. And like for this one in particular, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of good now. It's sort of a bucket list sort of moment. But if they ever need someone to chat, like I'm their guy. I'm game. So, tremendous experience and yeah, pretty special moment on my end. It was cool that you guys attended too to support me and
Hmm.
appreciate that. And I just appreciate everything about that experience. Getting to do that was really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. You came full circle in a way.
Yes,
Oh
indeed.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how life goes, you know, like it is kind of a full circle moment. And like if you were to tell me that I would be on a panel at WonderCon in my lifetime, number one, I'd be like, no way, come on. Number two, I, if it was to happen, I don't think I'd guess it'd be this way, you know, as a costumed volunteer for a volunteer organization, right? It's just, yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that years ago, right? But here we are. Life is full of surprises.
Hmm.
In this case, a good surprise, a great surprise. All right. Okay, onward. What else? Okay, so that maybe that's a good segue to cosplay, since West Coast Avengers is a cosplay group. Uh, WonderCon is a cosplay con now, right? So I went into the history of it a little bit, where it started off with like pretty much just comics, and then it went really Hollywood, right? WonderCon is part of the San Diego Comic-Con organization, and for a while it was very much like San Diego Comic-Con. It was like San Diego Comic-Con in the Bay Area. That was kind of its thing for a while. Now it's different, you know. It's in Anaheim, and the Hollywood presence is not as prevalent, and it really is a cosplay convention. That's like the main thing, right? So let's talk about the cosplay a bit, yeah. Maybe we can start about our own cosplay. We all did cosplay for the convention. Porforio, you did quite a bit of cosplay. So maybe you can talk about some of your costumes.
Yeah, I did three cosplays. I did Friday for half a day. I did Scarlet Witch. It was like a red maxi cut dress with like black leggings and red leather thigh high boots. Um, my gosh, those hurt. Christian saw me struggle. He saw me
It
struggle.
looked like they hurt.
I like gave I probably was only wore them for like an hour before I called it
Mm.
quits, you know. Christian saw me, he was like, "Oh, it looks like you were like bending your knees or shaking." I'm like, "I was." But I definitely did so I could take a picture of Steve Orlando,
Mm.
and it's just so funny. Like I kept missing him on Friday, but I kept seeing him after that over the weekend. But as he was leaving his little like artist table on Friday, I like ran up to him and I was like, I did not fucking like put this costume on, so I wouldn't take a picture of you. So I totally ran up to him, took a picture of him, and he was just totally cool. And he like signed my Scarlet Witch comic right before he left.
Right on, right
Did
on.
that Friday. Saturday, I dressed up as Sokka from Avatar: The Last Airbender. He's from the Water Tribe. And that one was, I think, the only costume I actually had to like design. I had like a blue cardigan. I had to like hot glue like white fur along the light lining. Um, Took so long, took quite a bit of money. Making a cosplay is not cheap. That was just fun. It was cold that day, but my costume kept me warm. And then Sunday, I did Alistair from um Has Hotel. He's like a radio demon,
Mm.
and I did like this like yeah like red like steampunk kind of look, and that was a lot of fun. It was actually I think the most like comfortable out of the three.
Nice.
Um,
Excellent.
I didn't tell you guys, but you know I think Friday and Sunday I had makeup because of my costumes.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't know what if my skin had a bad reaction or I just didn't clean it up that good. But Monday, Tuesday, and even kind of right now, like my left eye, like totally kind of like got like like a little like swollen, and I'm guessing it's from the
Mm.
Oh
makeup.
no.
I like bit of a
Uh-huh.
reaction.
Yeah, it
Mm.
wasn't like a rash or anything, but it was just like a little swollen.
Mm.
I think like maybe like a little bit of makeup got within the eye,
Oh
you
yeah, that's
know,
probably it.
from not cleaning it up that good
Hmm.
or something. But um, so next time I'm gonna do better.
Mm.
I clean it up.
Hmm.
Eye
I
makeup's
want,
hard.
yeah. I wonder too, when you were doing the eye makeup, like how close did you get to the eyeball? Did you get right up against it, or did you leave like a little bit of a perimeter there?
I went like pretty close to it just because I
Okay.
did like I used eyeshadow above like the eyelid. But
Hmm.
then I thought that looked really weird to kind of just like not paint the eyelid. So I like closed my eye and then I painted the eyelid.
Mm, I
But then
see.
I also painted like the area like between like like the eye, the corner of your eye and the nose, you know.
Hmm. Hmm. Right, right. Yeah, I asked because I too did do some eye makeup, and those thoughts kind of went through my head where like, okay, how close should I get to the eye? Because I don't want it to be, I don't want it to look bad, but I don't want to get it so close that maybe I accidentally like poke my eye or have the makeup be have it get in my eye, right? So yeah, I don't know. That's the cosplay life, right? So
Mhm.
something to keep in mind. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something to that because I remember I specifically did leave a bit of room just in case. So I don't know, maybe that led to your reaction. Something to keep in mind, perhaps.
Yeah, I need to ask like a drag queen next time for tips or
There you
something.
go. Yeah. We need an expert to help
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
out here.
Get your own makeup department. Yeah.
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 Okay. So since I was alluding to my own costume, maybe I'll talk about that a bit. I did have a costume. My Winter Soldier costume came out of the closet again for another tour of duty. Yeah, I've worn this one a number of times now. It's definitely one of my favorites. Um, yeah, I've worn it quite a bit. But this is just the second time I've done it with like the eye black. So I did that at the SF Fan Expo last November, and I thought it looked really cool. So I wanted to do that again. So I did do the black eye makeup around the eyes, and I think I mentioned this to you guys, but um, it's kind of cool doing that, especially for like a novice makeup person. because it's kind of supposed to look messy. The Winter Soldier doesn't wear black eye makeup. He just has like black smudges around his eyes, right? One, it's supposed to be in line with the comics. Like in the comics, he has like a domino mask, right? But that is kind of silly in the MCU, so they went with like the eye black, which is sort of an homage to that. But also it hints that like when he takes his goggles off, that there's like residue or there's just like dirt from that still lingering around the eyes. So with that in mind, it can be really messy. It doesn't have to be clean. So that kind of takes the pressure off of me. So if it's not super close around my eyes, it's fine. If I kind of mess up and it's sort of like all over the place, no big deal, right? So that's cool. And yeah, I cosplayed on Friday and Saturday. So Saturday was the big Marvel Universe cosplay meetup. So this is a big thing for WonderCon now. Each year on Saturday, there's a big Marvel meetup. It's always fun. We mentioned it last year, and yeah, it's always a thrill, right? There's tons of Marvel cosplayers coming together at one time, and it's just really cool. So that was a cool opportunity to see all the other Marvel cosplays, but also for me to like kind of find my people, right? That's the thing at cons, right? Finding your people. So I did the group photos and whatnot, but I like to like find my people too, and that's always fun. So I found a Sam Wilson, right? A Sam Wilson Captain America. So took a picture with him. So there's a Sam and Bucky team up. I found a Punisher cosplayer. So did a photo with him, guns out and everything, right? There was a really good Black Widow cosplayer. So I did a team up photo with her as well. So yeah, always always cool finding your people. And yeah, also cool that there weren't a lot of Winter Soldiers. I mentioned this is like the 10-year anniversary of Captain America 2, but not a ton of Buckies. There are a few, but not a lot. And actually at that Marvel m- cosplay meetup, I was the only Winter Soldier, so that's always kind of cool. Um, and oh, so I should mention this too. So that was Saturday, right? So on Friday, I also put on my Bucky outfit, but for a different reason. I had a photo shoot. This is the first time I've done one of these. So there's a great photographer. His name is Jonathan Contreras. Found him online and hired him for a 1 hour photo shoot. And I didn't really know what to expect. And it was cool because I wanted to sort of get it out of the way early. So, and I did. It was like Friday, 4 p.m. I checked into the hotel. We stayed at the Hilton, but I checked in there at like 2 p.m. on Friday. So not long after, um, I suited up and did this photo shoot. And again, didn't really know what to expect. And it turned out to be really great. Like he really knows his stuff. And I could sort of tell during the shoot, he was very knowledgeable about lighting, about environments, and um, other things too, like how to like hold guns and just poses, and he just knew his shit. So that went well. And the only thing that I'll mention is that with these photo shoots, you don't really get the instant gratification of, taking photos with your smartphone, right? You gotta wait a while, right? So it did take a bit of time before I saw the photos. And I'll say this too. Not only did Jonathan do photos, but he did photo edits, right? And this is something I really didn't know anything about. He mentioned like, oh, if you book an hour, you get photos, but you also get like a number of photo edits. I wasn't even sure what he meant, but he just said like, oh, pick your 15 favorite photos and I can edit them. So I was like, okay. And then just recently, like yesterday, today is Thursday. So Wednesday, he sent me a link to all the fully edited photos of the 15 that I had designated. And they're super cool. Oh my God. Like it's hard to describe, but it's something like if you go to your phone and you use like the filters, it's kind of like that, but it's if someone who really knows what they're doing is doing them. And it's sort of like a finely tuned filtering process. And he made the photos, which already looked great, really like cinematic. Yeah. So I couldn't be happier about that. So yeah, like with going to conventions, yeah, I wanted to call this out real quick. For me, going to conventions is very much for the experience, right? And I love experiencing new things. And two huge things I did at WonderCon this past weekend were new things. Like all these panels that I've attended throughout the years have been great. But it hasn't been until recently that I've been on the other side of it, being a panelist. An awesome new experience. And this is an awesome new experience too, getting to do a cosplay photo shoot, right? So doing cosplay at conventions, definitely been doing that for a while now. But to do like a professional photo shoot like that, really cool. And just one of those things that I can chalk up as new experience. I'm glad I did it and definitely wouldn't mind doing something like that again. It went well. It wasn't particularly expensive and yeah, I can't say enough. Great experience. Okay, so what about you, Christian? What was your cosplay?
All right. My cosplay. I went as Ned Flanders all weekend, which
Yes.
was a lot of fun. It was a lot more popular than I realized and anticipated.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, so I did my mustache, did my hair just like his. Mine was, pretty comfortable, pretty easy to put together, and one I've done before as well. And I got a lot of good comments on it. People love to come up to me and say the Ned Flanders quotes or their Simpsons quotes. And Simpsons isn't really something a lot of people cosplay as, it's you. I saw one other person. I saw Marge there, and that was it. One person
Hmm.
cosplays as Marge. I heard of maybe I think another person. Simpsons characters are kind of hard to cosplay because unless you really want to go through with the yellow face paint, you kind of just look like regular people. They're in street clothes for the
Hmm.
most part. But there are some very iconic looks, and I think if you put it on and you kind of start acting like the character, a lot of people really gravitated towards that. People loved me saying Heidely Ho and saying all the Ned Flanders lines. And so that it's also cosplay can be a really fun way to just interact with people and be a
Yep.
real big like it almost like an opener to a conversation where you just start talking to people. Oh, hey, nice cosplay. What are you doing? And then I would,
Mhm.
so I would come up to people and say, "Hey, that's a cool cosplay." Maybe you can like throw out a quote or something like that the character says and like you kind of get into it. It's a cool little way to form like a quick connection and
Hmm.
meet new people.
Yeah.
That's that's always a lot of fun. And as well as it is fun a bit to get a little bit into the character. It's
Yeah.
fun to say
Yeah.
the Ned Flanders quotes and like people would give some of their favorite Simpsons quotes and moments and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Christian, like, I don't know what it is, but like I feel like every con we go to, you always get like the most like stopped to get like photo ops, like whether it was like this one or the Full Metal Alchemist cosplay you do, or even that Riddler outfit you did one year? Like, I feel like people just come up to you no matter what cosplay you do and always ask for your pick.
I don't know what it is.
People love you, Christian.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess I'm just it's what I've become the most popular, I guess.
It's awesome.
I don't know what it is. I think I'm good at finding people who I kind of already look like.
There
And
you
so
go.
I'll kind
Yeah.
of like throw that and I'll kind of just like I'll just like do a little bit of homework to like, oh, who is this character? And I think when you kind of throw out a line and act a little bit, you see the like people's eyes just start glowing up like, oh my God, yes, I love
Yeah.
this character.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Like,
you really get into it. Like every like small detail, like you're totally like will do for the con, like wear glasses that are not prescribed, you know?
mhm. And I can't really see much in. People were getting it without it too. Like I would just kind of put it on for pictures. Switch
Yeah.
out my
Mhm.
glasses when I want to take a picture, but like even without like the round glasses like Ned's, it was cool to see people like kind of recognize it. And I think Ned's not something I think people would immediately recognize, but eventually, oh, hey, wait a minute. You're this
Right.
character, right?
Yeah.
Because Ned's just in a sweater.
And you mentioned it, but even at a con where there weren't a lot of Simpsons cosplayers, you found your people too. You found a
Yeah.
Marge Simpson cosplayer, right? So how
hmm
awesome is that?
I did. And that was great. And we took a picture together and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, that's a big joy of cosplaying. Just those little moments, right? People wanting to take your picture or talk to you in character. I think we all experience that to to different extents, right? Where I think someone wanted a picture of me and you, Bucky and Wanda on Friday, right? Porforio. And
Yeah.
there are a few. I got a few photo requests. And then like just like walking past Captain America cosplayers, we would just give each other a little salute, you know. Just like little things like that are just so fun. I love it. And it just makes it it builds like it's like community. It's like it builds community,
Mhm.
right? And it's a good feeling.
Yeah, there was a funny moment in the elevator when we were going down and someone was in there dressed as like Tony Stark, you know.
Yeah.
It was
Oh yeah.
after like go after the Mandarin, I'm coming after you.
Right. Yeah. It was cool. And he like, he had his MCU timeline correct, right? He was referring to Iron Man 3 and then next up Civil War, right? So, you know, props. So yeah, like the weekend was just full of like little moments like that. So love it so much. All right. What else? So the exhibit floor, let's talk about that some. That's a big plus with WonderCon. Yeah, I think WonderCon is definitely known for cosplayers, but it's also known for a pretty freaking awesome exhibit floor. A huge exhibit floor, right? So maybe we can talk about that a bit. Maybe talk a little bit about what we picked up. Yeah. What did we get?
Yeah.
Porfirio, what'd you buy this past weekend? Seems like you got a lot of
Mm,
stuff.
yeah, I got like a lot of fan art. I got a lot of comics signed from like comic creators, artists, and writers. Um, I don't know if, I mean, yeah, you guys probably know, but there are just some comic creators who just kind of know, like, I'm not gonna say names, but they're just a little like, not fun to interact with. I'd just be
Mm.
like, oh, like, I love your comic, da 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 da. And they'd just be like, yeah, okay, cool. And then just sign it, and then just like,
Leave me
not,
alone kind of thing.
yeah,
Take your book and leave.
uh-huh.
Bye.
I mean, I feel like I didn't like I feel like I wasn't annoying, but I don't know. I don't know if I just gave like the wrong impression, but I was like, okay, fine. I'll just take my signed comic and just do my own thing. um, but yeah, I got like a lot of fan art. And because that's where I love doing my thing. And yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, and I got like I said earlier in the podcast, I got the voices of Rogue and Gambit to do signature. I got their
Nice.
signature.
What did
Uh,
they sign?
they're they had like a like Rogue Gambit like photo that they could
Oh,
sign.
okay. Right on.
Uh,
Perfect.
and they're real super cool. Like the voice actor Gambit, he like recognized my Soka cosplay right away, and
Oh,
so
wow.
he was super cool, and he was just like, I was able to relate to him because he also grew up on the '90s series and just said that this was like a dream come true project. So he was super cool. And then Rogue, like it was the OG Rogue voice, and she was just super sweet. I almost cried like meeting her, like just being
Oh,
like Rogue was like my favorite out of the X-Men team, her and Storm. Like and so she was just super nice and super sweet, and it was cool when she said my name. She was like, "It's okay if I write it under your name." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." She's like, "Okay, how do you say it?" And I was like, "Oh, Porfirio." She's like, "Okay, well, thank you very much, Porfirio." Like, sugar, Like I was
oh.
like, "Oh my gosh, you're so super."
Whoa. Oh, that's awesome.
I yeah, it was super cool. Um, but it was one of those things because I knew like Rogue was gonna be there. I did not know Gambit was going to be there, and I found out through like interacting because I know one of the organizers of the '97 fan panel, and he told me that both of them were going to be there, and so it's like one of those things that fucking WonderCon doesn't promote, and I had to like
Yeah.
find out through like word of mouth,
Wow.
um, and then I found out that the next day Gambit wasn't there, but Jubilee, the voice actor of Jubilee, was there.
Oh. Oh.
And then yeah, Morphin and Sunspot, they were just kind of just chilling in the area. So I got lucky with that, you know.
Mm.
I got
Nice.
extremely lucky with that. But yeah, it was cool though. It was really a
Yeah.
fun experience.
That's great. Oh, hey, before I forget, um, with the cosplay stuff, we just talked about our own cosplays. We should talk a little bit about other people's cosplays, yeah? Um, one thing we like to keep an eye out for is number one, our favorite cosplays, or the most awesome cosplays, and number two, what was most popular? Like that's always fun, right? Like what's the hot cosplay of this con? We talked a bit before about like how Deadpool and Harley Quinn were really in vogue for a while. Yeah, what were the costumes we saw the most of? Would you say, Christian? Any thoughts?
Definitely. I guess it's not one singular cosplay, but definitely X-Men
Yeah.
was really hot this year with
Mm-hmm.
X-Men
Hmm.
97 just coming out and being really big. And of course, with the panel, saw a lot of X-Men, like classic X-Men too.
Yep. Yep.
I think
Hmm.
saw a lot more Cyclops than I usually have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Usually we'll get Wolverine, but like Wolverine is definitely more used to be more Hugh Jackman kind of based with
Yeah.
the wife beater and just the claws and the hair, whereas this time people really went all out for classic yellow Wolverine,
Mm-hmm.
as well as lots of rogues, jubilees, um, a few gambits, of course. Definitely not as many gambits, but like I don't think I've ever seen so many Cyclops cosplays. before.
I know. Yeah, no. That's because that's also a hard one to pull off, but there were a lot though.
Yeah, just to to follow up on that, yeah, I agree. A lot of X-Men cosplayers, and yes, a lot of yellow suit Wolverine costumes in particular. So this is kind of funny. The panel I was on featured uh, a Wolverine cosplayer, Ernie. Um, he did a great job on the panel. And after the panel, we were just kind of like chatting outside the panel room. And we were just kind of like slowly making our way to the exhibit floor and just kind of chatting amongst each other, kind of following along to go to the exhibit floor. Um, and I was kind of following him, right? And I was chatting with someone else, and I took my eyes off him for it couldn't have been for more than like a minute or two, and I was like, oh, where's Ernie? Where'd he go? And I looked for a yellow suit Wolverine, and I saw one. I was like, oh, there he is. And I looked like, wait a minute, that's not him. It's a different Wolverine. And then I looked around more, and I saw another yellow suit Wolverine. I was like, oh, that must be him. I go over to him. It was a different guy. It's so there were so many yellow suit Wolverines that I couldn't keep track of them. And like I didn't even like find him later. Like he lost me in practically a sea of yellow suit Wolverines. It was wild. So not a huge surprise because the X-Men 97 show is super hot right now. Also, there's the upcoming Deadpool Wolverine movie, which yes does feature Yellow Suit Wolverine as well. So that one, not surprisingly, was very popular. There were a lot. I think that Saturday in particular, there were a ton of those Yellow Suit Wolverines.
Although not a lot of Deadpool, though.
There were
Another
some,
big
but
Dead. There's some.
yeah, but not a lot. Not like years past.
Yeah, not like 2017, 2018, where it's just a sea of Deadpools.
Yeah. Um, How about we call out some of our favorites? I had one I wanted to call out. This was on Saturday, or no, not Saturday. It was on Sunday. So on Sunday, um, it finally stopped raining, right? Saturday, there was a ton of rain, and that fountain area, which typically there's tons of cosplayers throughout the weekend, they weren't at the fountains at all on Saturday because there was so much rain. So Sunday, finally things cleared up, and you guys are doing photos. I remember Christian, you were taking a photo of Porforio at the fountain. But while you guys were doing that, there was a Spirited Away cosplay duo
Oh
that was so
yes. Uh-huh.
awesome. It was a No Face and a
Hmm.
Chihiro, and they looked great. And they had all the details down too. Like they even had the bath tokens and the gold nuggets from the movie, and they just nailed it. It was so cool. Um, yeah, they clearly they were like deep, you know, deep fandom for that movie, right? So I appreciated that. It wasn't like super complicated or anything, but their passion for that movie really shined through. So that's one I really enjoyed. Any particular cosplays you guys wanted to call out?
Yeah, there was a couple. One that like I gotta give mad props to. There was a really good Mr. Freeze cosplay
Oh yeah.
that I saw,
Mm-hmm.
and Mr. Freeze has got to be really hard to pull off because
Mm-hmm.
one, this is like the classic one, not the Arnold Schwarzenegger one.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have a full thing of like face paint. Of course you have a shaved head, so your entire head is covered in paint. Um, and of course you're in a big suit,
Yep.
really hot, and you have this like dome over your head,
Yep.
this
The
like glass
the
dome.
full dome. Yep, he had it.
So like that's really hot, really uncomfortable, and probably hard to breathe in that. But this guy was like perfect, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool.
like looked perfect, had the freeze gun prop, Like, so I got to give props to that one. That
Hmm.
was really well done. Um, Another one I thought was really cool. This one's pretty cute. It was there was like a boy and his like little kid son. Um, and it was like a Zelda themed cosplay. Of course, you see like a lot of links, you know. Saw yeah, quite a few links here because we had a Zelda game last year. And of course he
Yeah.
was Link, kind of like the older Link from Ocarina of Time, but he had his son be Link from The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, which was
Uh,
a game where you're on the open seas and you have the boat, and he made the boat for his son,
oh, no
and it
way.
had wheels.
That's
So
cool.
he was pushing his son, who was dressed as Link and had the full King of Red Lions boat around. And I saw him actually, there's a big fountain in front, and he was
Hmm.
pushing him in front of the fountain, so it kind of looked like there was like, the sea behind him in a way. So I
Hmm.
thought that was really, really cool to see.
Nice.
So those were definitely a couple really good ones I saw.
Yeah. Any ones you want to call out, Porfirio? Awesome costumes.
Yeah, there's this cool um cosplayers. They were dressed up as Hulkling and Wicked, from
Mm.
Marvel.
Yeah.
Um and I don't know if I told you guys, but they're like the guy who played Hulkling, he was part of this Hulkling Wiccan YouTube web show that came out like in early March. And so he just like, yeah, recreated the look. And I gotta give major props because they were both like dressed up on Saturday. And I was looking at his Instagram story because since I already followed him, um, I think he got up at like 5 or 6 in the morning to like get the green paint. And I guess he didn't check the weather and he was like, oh shit, it's raining
Yeah.
today, you know. But major props for like going through with it, waking up so early
Yeah.
and protecting it in the rain.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Excellent. Oh, there was a cool one too. I just popped it just popped in my head, but there was a Scarlet Witch who was on stilts. Remember her?
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So number one, it looked kind of dangerous. She was really high up, but number two, it looked super cool because it basically looked like she was floating in the air. So pretty cool idea. I don't know if I'd recommend it to everyone because it did look pretty dangerous.
Mm.
But she was rocking it and looked
She
good.
was she had definitely practiced walking on
Yeah,
those
yeah,
stilts.
yeah. She seemed pretty comfortable. All right. Okay, so back to where we were, the exhibit floor. So Porfirio mentioned he picked up some pretty awesome stuff. How about you, Christian? Did you get anything on the
I
exhibit
got
floor?
yeah, I got a few cool things. I didn't buy as much this time around as far as um I guess just overall stuff. Got some really cool t-shirts. Because there are a lot of sweet t-shirt vendors, a lot of crossover t-shirts or custom stuff with like some nerdy stuff. So I picked up like one that was made um that had a picture of the Phantasm for Batman Mask of the Phantasm that was really
Oh
cool.
yeah,
And
that's
one that
cool.
had the like an old D&D module from the 1980s on it. Had that real old school fantasy look that I really like. I picked up one of those. And let's see, I only picked up one comic, which we might get into a bit later. And of course, got some custom. They had a custom Lego like figure booth where you can get all these different. I think they just 3D printed them, different Lego figurines for all these different characters. Mario, Nintendo, Marvel, DC, things like that. So I got some sweet Nintendo ones. And I think that might have been it off the top of my head unless I'm forgetting something. But I think also one also great thing, even though I to buy, it's fun to window shop there. It's fun to just
Yeah.
go and flip through a bunch of comics and think about getting stuff or look through a bunch of fan art and be like, oh, that's cool, that looks cool, that looks cool.
You got some tea.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did get some tea, which I tried today. It was from Tea and Absinthe. It was pretty good.
Hmm.
I hope Christian pick it.
Mm, they had a whole
Excellent.
tea stand, I think, and it's definitely something. I think I picked up some at Fan Expo. I picked up some here. I really hope they they keep going to cons. It's a couple different companies, but I would love to keep picking up tea at each con. I think it's a lot of fun. It's something different, and like they
Yeah.
always kind of have like a vibe,
Yeah.
and that you can smell tea, you can smell the teas, and like they had all these different like little samples. You can't buy a cup like with like water in the bag, of course. That's a different license, but
Yeah.
it is a lot of fun, and it's nice to bring something back kind of like that, that's like a bit consumable that you kind of share with like say your friends and family. So yeah, that was some
you,
good tea and
you know,
absinthe.
a funny story about my experience on the floor is that,
Hmm.
like, I told myself I was only going to give myself $100 budget,
Hmm.
and I had $100 in cash, but Friday I forgot it at home. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna use like my debit card. So
Hmm.
technically, I wasn't using my WonderCon budget,
Not technically.
and then yeah,
Loophole.
not technically. And then fucking Saturday comes. Was it Saturday? I want to say it was Saturday. Yeah, it was Saturday. I like spent it because the Rogan Gambit signatures were not cheap. It was $100, 50
Mm,
for each.
okay.
So so there went all my WonderCon budget.
Hmm.
Um, but even then, I did use my debit card, that loophole. So I still had my WonderCon budget cash, and so by Sunday, um, I was just kind of like, I think this was like the final few hours on the floor. Like me and Christian were just like hanging out and stuff, and I was just like, "Oh, I should get this." And Christian legit like would like pull me aside and be like, "No, you already spent your budget. Like you need to save up for New York, you know?"
Yes.
And then I would just be like, "But this is so cool." He's like, "No, like trust me, like I am due you a favor." Like, and I appreciate it because I know I would have definitely spent my WonderCon budget on like fan art and stuff. So it was just super, like he would just pull me, and like anytime I would look at something, he'd just be like, "No, like we're walking away from this."
The temptation is high because there's so much cool stuff there, and the
Yeah.
floor is
There
so
was.
massive that there's always kind of something new
Yeah.
that you missed,
Hmm.
that it's fun to window shop, and all that, but sometimes you're like, I want that. I need
Yeah.
it.
Hmm.
I've always needed it.
Yes.
It's there. I'm never gonna
Yes.
buy this again and see this
Yeah.
again. I better
Right.
buy it now.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Even after going to so many of these and knowing they'll be here next year, they'll be here next year, they'll be here next year.
For
Yeah.
It's
real.
hard. Yeah, the temptation is high.
Yes. Yes. So in that vein, I had some of my own discovery moments on the exhibit floor also. As you guys know, I'm a big comic collector. More recently, though, I've been getting into US versions of Japanese manga slash Japanese anime. Um, so yeah, I was kind of on the hunt for some of that stuff. It's pretty interesting because a lot of these comics, so again, they're US comics versions of manga and anime. And as it turns out, some of this stuff is kind of scarce, low print run type stuff. So for example, like the final two comics issues, I'm talking about individual comics issues of Akira are in this category. They are low print run. I did have the final issue of Akira already. Um, but that's it. That's the only comic of Akira I had. But I did come across the second to last issue at WonderCon, so I picked that up. Was very happy about that. Again, it's not easy to find. There just aren't many of these out there, and in the vein of what you're just talking about, Christian, about discovering stuff that you didn't know about, but when you discover they exist, you must have it. Like I had that because I discovered um these comic books, US comic books of Cowboy Bebop. And it was like, holy shit, these are super cool. What is this exactly? Um, and I'm still not sure what they are, but apparently there were American comics that were produced to promote like the anime series, right? And again, and most importantly for like the collector's mindset that I have, very scarce. There's just not many of these out there. Um, so uh, they had issues two, three, and four. And of course, now I'm on the hunt for one, which of course is like the most valuable and sought after of the bunch. But they're super cool. Like the four issues are like the four main characters featured on each cover, and each one is like a different color to it, and it's just really awesome. So yeah, that's WonderCon for you. Like
Mhm.
you just find cool shit. And in this particular case, it's something I did not know existed. And once I discovered it, I was like, I must have that.
Mhm.
So yeah, overall it didn't do a lot of exhibit floor shopping. Like those four comics, like that was really the extent of it. That was it. Oh, I guess I should say Um, on Friday, I did pick up a couple cosplay props. Um, I got a couple knives for my Winter Soldier costume, which I guess I could use for my Black Widow costume too, potentially. So I think that was about it. Yeah, I didn't do a ton of exhibit floor shopping, and like you're alluding to, Christian, it is fun just to kind of browse and see the awesome stuff out there and um, not necessarily buy a ton of stuff. Yeah, it can be fun just sort of wandering around.
Mhm. Yeah, that exhibit floor is just so epic. It's so
Yeah,
large.
yeah.
It feels keeps going. It feels like a maze. I think at one point, um, I think I said to Porforio, it's like I have no idea where we are,
Hmm.
and
Oh
I have
yeah.
no idea.
Right, where am I? I'm
Yeah,
lost.
Yeah. No,
I'm
yeah,
like
it was like
completely lost.
it was Friday. We were waiting for you, Henry, and
Hmm.
I think yeah, like you had just messaged us that you just got to the like you just landed, and
Hmm.
Christian was just like, okay. I told Christian, I was like, yeah, Henry just messaged that he landed, so he'll probably be heading to a hotel soon, and then we could meet up with him there. And then Christian was just like, okay, well, I kind of don't know where we are. And I was like, no, it's okay. I know where we're at. And then like I legit like once you like messaged us that you were already like in the hotel room, I was like, okay, let's just go this way. And like we were like so close to like the entrance.
Hmm. And there's definitely a point later on. I think I was by myself walking through, and I was looking for that Phantasm shirt. It was a small booth. And I thought I was walking one direction, but I really walked in a circle.
Mm.
I definitely was like, okay, I need to go here, and then I think let me just look around and see if I can find it. I kind of remember the area, and I would just like I found this one booth, and then walked in a circle. I saw that booth. Oh no, I am nowhere near this booth. And looking for one particular thing was actually kind of hard
Yeah, it
because it
can
was
be
just
hard.
so vast and you just go in a direction and
Yeah.
you'd
Even
be like, I don't recognize that. I feel like I've been through this whole thing and I don't recognize that booth at all. Where am I? And so,
and
I mean this in a good way too. Like it's cool to just like have this just expansive floor that you can just explore to your heart's
yeah.
content. And like there's so many cool little things. You can stop at a booth for a while, check out what they have, find another booth, check out what they have for a while, and just like kind of walk and window shop for a while. Like it's like you don't really have to do any panels. You could just spend your weekend just there.
Hmm. Yep. It's true.
And even you looking for your coffee, I think you had a hard time with that.
Because they had a little coffee booth in the middle and I just couldn't find it for a while. It's good coffee, but just like wandering around in circles looking for it.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
And then you find, and then like end up finding. I think it was when we went to the Todd McFarlane panel. You were like, oh my gosh, they had like a coffee, um, like vendor all the way out here. There was no line.
Mhm. There was a long line in that middle one.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, I think we can stay generally positive, but maybe we can get into some things that maybe weren't so cool or, you know, surprises, um, that sort of thing. What do we think?
Hmm.
I mean, we've alluded to some things that like weren't so great, but um, anything we want to call out is like a negative or something that kind of peeved you, anything along those lines.
Like the weather.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the
The
weather.
rain. The
So
rain.
Anaheim, California is not known for rain, but we got rained on hard this past weekend. And we kind of knew it. The forecast was for rain and we got rain. Yeah, particularly on Saturday. So that was kind of a bummer because Saturday really is the big day and like all the cosplay meetups at the fountain were on Saturday and they had to move it. So how did we feel about the rain?
Mhm. Yeah, it does put a damper. It rained
Hmm.
on our parade, kind of
Hmm.
literally there.
Yeah.
It,
So
yeah. Hmm.
that
It
fountain
was
too. Oh, sorry, go for it.
no, no, go for it. Go ahead and finish.
Okay, I was just gonna say that fountain is such a big landmark. It's such a central
Hmm.
location.
Yeah.
Um, in the way there's steps, so a lot
Hmm.
of people love doing their cosplay there on the steps in front of the fountain, in front of the big convention center with the logo.
Hmm.
And so I think it's like kind of one of the highlights of Comic-Con is that fountain area because that's where the cosplayers meet up.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
when it would stop raining, you'd see people go out there and take their pictures and hang out for a bit. And then when it started raining, people would come in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we made it work the best we could. But yeah, that was, the rain, uh, poorly timed,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Kind of a bummer because that fountain really is the spot. Like it's just this unspoken thing. It's just where the cosplayers hang out. And this year there wasn't one singular go-to place, right? There wasn't the equivalent of the fountain because it kind of became two things. Like the cosplay meetups were moved to the side of the exhibit floor. So the exhibit floor, as big as it is, didn't take up the entire space in the convention center. There's this corner where it was just like unused, right? That became the cosplay photo shoot spot. So all the cosplay photo shoots that were scheduled for the fountain or elsewhere were moved there. But that is like out of the way, and it wasn't like the default cosplay hangout. So a lot of cosplayers were there because of photo shoots, but a lot were like just inside the main doors. Like there's the fountain and then you go through the doors, right? So it's indoors, but just inside from the fountain. That kind of became like somewhat of a cosplay hub of activity. But again, I'm telling you, there wasn't really one main place. And to me, that's like a huge appeal of WonderCon. Like I would argue maybe because WonderCon, one of the reasons WonderCon has become one of the top cosplay conventions in the country, because of that damn fountain, right? Because it's just it's the place to go, and you get this really cool like mix of people, right? So for the themed cosplay photo shoots is great because you get like a ton of Marvel cosplayers or a ton of DC cosplayers or whatever, but you also get like this cool like mashup of different franchises and stuff too, right? And that, sadly was lacking. We wish we just didn't really get that experience this year, so it's too bad. Porforio, did you have something to add there?
No, I was just gonna say like yeah, because of the fucking weather, I had to switch up the which days I was gonna do my
Mm.
cosplays, you
Hmm.
know? Um, but like Christian said, like, because since nobody wants to take pictures at the fountain, like you had just cosplayers like kind of like all together, and you just did not want to be in somebody's like shot, you kind of had to
Mm.
like tippy toe or wait for them to finish their shoot.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but then there were some cosplayers who were like, oh, it's only a sprinkle, just like taking the pictures. Like I remember me and Christian just kind of like looking outside the window from like the second floor and just being like, yeah, look at those people like still taking pictures in like that garden walk area.
Hmm. Yeah, 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 definitely.
Rain or
Uh,
shine doesn't stop them.
that's right. That's right.
Mm, mm-mm.
So here's a question I wanted to pose to you guys. So, as the years go on and we attend more and more conventions, each convention has like a particular personality, particular strengths and weaknesses. Um, so we've mentioned this about WonderCon, but it really is strong on the cosplay front, really great exhibit floor. Um, but as we were kind of alluding to before, it doesn't really have like the big star power, certainly of a San Diego Comic-Con, but also like other cons now too. Like the Fan Expo really is becoming a huge celebrity guest list type thing, right? WonderCon, not so much, right? And like I was saying, the history of it has been a bigger celebrity presence. But now it's starting to become what seems to me like a convention that's a bit more for hardcore fans who take that extra step and do cosplay, or who are deeply familiar with comics creators, and where the average fan might not recognize the voice actor of Rogue or of Gambit. Here we have Porfirio who is fangirling out at these celebrity moments, right? Um, but and in stark contrast, we were at Fan Expo in November in San Francisco, and we're talking about Mark Hamill, Ewan McGregor. I mean, big time celebrities, right? Um, so what are you guys' thoughts on that? Like the fact that WonderCon really isn't that kind of convention. It doesn't have big star power.
Hmm. I think for me personally, because it seems like now we're kind of settled into going to Fan Expo, Fan Expo and WonderCon. Um, and so it's nice to have a bit of a contrast there. That one is more kind of, even though it's called Fan Expo, this one seems to be real. WonderCon is like the real one that's fan based, as you
Hmm.
said. There's a bit more of like the hardcore crowd with the heavy cosplay, um, the comics creators and artists there, um, and like not a lot of just like your big name celebrities to really
Hmm.
draw people in. It's almost like the fans kind of draw themselves in a way, like as well as, this kind of massive exhibit floor. Fan Expo is had a good exhibit floor, but it really does have nothing on this one.
Yeah.
And I think the exhibit floor itself is a pretty big draw.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I like that there's a bit of a difference between the two. I guess I'm not going to the San Diego Comic Con, which of course is its own beast entirely.
Hmm.
But I like that. I get, I guess it would be nice. I wouldn't uh I'd always welcome some bigger guests, or I'd always welcome more guests at WonderCon, but because it always felt like I wasn't at a point where I felt like there wasn't something to do. Or if there was
Mm.
something where I was like, I don't know what to do right now, it was nice to get like a bit of a break.
Yeah.
Especially
Hmm.
because I think we've gone to quite a few of these as well. So we've kind of found a bit of our footing with
Yeah. Yeah.
what to do at these cons, where to go, and kind of when to take a break.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Like we've been to enough to know, but I could see, maybe a more casual fan or a newer attendee of WonderCon maybe walking away from this one being like, yeah, it was okay, but I don't know. Because you really have to kind of dig deep into that programming schedule to find like, oh shit, Sam Raimi's doing a panel? I didn't know that. Or, oh dang, Todd McFarlane's here? Like, stuff like that, right? It's not well publicized. And a lot of it is like your own knowledge of the convention or of the fandoms and whatnot, right? So um,
Yeah.
yeah, something to keep in mind because it is different. Like for Fan Expo, like the guest information is like all over the website, and you have instant knowledge of like, oh, they're doing autographs at this time, they're doing photo ops at this time, they're doing a panel, maybe they're not doing a panel. It's all there, right? And there's not so much of this discovery and digging, right? So yeah, it is different. And like you're saying, Christian, it's kind of cool that they're completely different experiences. And um it's yeah, you kind of get different flavors that way.
Mhm. But yeah,
Yeah. I feel like,
oh, sorry, go for it.
uh, sorry. I feel like WonderCon is more like you guys are both saying, like cosplay driven. Like it's really the fans who make up the con. Like if Adam Savage is like vision or like ownership of like WonderCon to be like more cosplay, if because he tried to do that Silicon and it was just not happening, you
Yeah.
know. I
Hmm.
feel like he'd probably have like a little bit more success at WonderCon because I feel like WonderCon is like you get all the folks that like go all out for like their cosplays, and but and then yeah, so that's one point I want to make, and then the other point I just want to say is like yeah, like we don't need, I guess, like the big celebrity names just because like there's just so much to do that it kind of be like I don't know, I guess I've never been to San Diego Comic Con, but it just sounds like if you went to all these like big name celebrities, you miss out on like a whole bunch of other stuff that you can be doing, like checking out the floor or like even just spending time with friends that you go with, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, I really like what you mentioned, Porfirio, about how it's the fans who are dictating the experience at WonderCon. Like, I 100% agree. I think whereas the experience at a fan expo or maybe a New York Comic Con, it's kind of celebrity driven, right? Like the the most heavily attended things at those conventions are the big celebrity panels, the big celebrity photo ops, and the big celebrity autograph sessions, right? And it's that's sort of driving where everyone is going. But with a show like WonderCon, it's really more fan driven. You know, um, the clearest example is the cosplay. Like cosplay is the star of WonderCon, and it's entirely driven by fans. Like the fans suiting up and being inventive and finding their people and all these things that we mentioned. Also, I wanted to mention the the biggest thing at WonderCon was what? It was the X-Men fandom panel, right? And yes, there was a Hollywood presence there this year, which was awesome. These voice actors showing up. Um, but it all came from fandom, right? We attended the X-Men fandom panel last year, and it was very energetic and awesome also. And that was fan driven 100%, right? It's just it's a group of people who love the X-Men and wanted to talk about it. That's really what the panel was, and that's really all it was. But the genuine passion for that franchise really shined through, and people were drawn to it. We went there and we thought like this is so cool. People were just like free and easy and talking about what they love. And I'm telling you, now that I've done a panel, I've kind of seen the behind the scenes of it a bit, but the people at WonderCon uh pay very close attention to how many people attend the panel. So, like when I um went to be a panelist at the West Coast Avengers panel on Saturday, I was the first panelist to get there. So the coordinator guy at WonderCon, he kind of went to me and he gave me all like the name tents and he gave me the lowdown. It's like, oh, I'm gonna tell you, um, okay, you're halfway done, and I'm gonna give you the 10 minutes left sign, 5 minutes left, and like wrap up time. And I was like, oh, I'm not the moderator. So maybe you want to wait till they get here. And they were running a little late, but he was like, it doesn't matter. I'll tell you anyway. And he just gave me the whole spiel. And he was telling me like he does counts. Like they count the number of people in the room and not just one time, like at a number of times. So they really pay attention to like how many people attend the panels. So that made me think, oh, I think that's how that voice cast ended up at the X-Men fandom panel because that panel is heavily attended even before there was like any celebrities on it, right? So the organizers knew like this panel is lit. People go to this panel, they love it. So when they talk to Marvel Studios, whoever, they're like, this is a great opportunity to promote your show, right? So even though, yes, that was like a more Hollywood panel than a lot of the other stuff we attended. It was born of fan-driven fandom type perspectives, right? So like I'm saying, like WonderCon really is fan-driven, and I think in a good way too, because um you know the just the example I just described, the X-Men fandom thing, it led to great things, right? Um, but even other things like the fact that I got to be on a panel is super cool, right? And that's like I think WonderCon being open to having this convention be fan driven. So, thank you so much for that opportunity. It was wonderful. And other stuff, fun stuff like the Nintendo Quiz Bowl. Clearly, that's just like a fan driven thing. It's just a bunch of Nintendo nerds gathering together and doing trivia. That's all it is. But it made for a really fun hour of entertainment. So, um, yeah, I think I'm realizing this more and more as time goes by, that this convention, it's really all about the fans, and the fans dictate what the convention is, right? They really do.
I think another one that is also very fan driven is there's a cosplay masquerade. It's one of the last events
Mm,
on Saturday.
yeah.
And so that was packed. We got in pretty late. It was kind of towards the end, and we were sitting in the back, completely full ballroom of people cheering on other people's cosplays, and they went all out. They had a speaker who would bring them on, introduce them, and the cosplayer would have a song of choice as they'd come out and maybe do a little dance number or just walk around and show off their cosplay. We saw a family of like Pokemon, and they had an announcer like preset of what the Pokemon did, and they had a little like thing that they would do, things like that. And people would get really into it. People were cheering, people were having a great time. Like everyone was so into this cosplay masquerade. And so that's, another big fan driven thing. Very big cosplay scene, and people loved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, there were a lot of people in that room. No question. All right. Why don't we get to final thoughts? Any final thoughts at all about WonderCon?
Can't wait till next year. I
Yeah.
already know my I already know my outfits, so I'm gonna wear all 3 days. So
Really?
yeah,
One year in advance, you already know, huh?
1 year in advance. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. I love it.
Yeah. So I'll just can't wait to see. Yeah, I'll have to start working on my next year's cosplay. I'll have to do something different.
Ted Lasso. I
Now that I'm
call
done
it right
that,
now.
you know, gotta find what works with my facial hair.
There you go.
Mm,
It's a big part of the cosplay. So
So hooray, WonderCon, and I think we can safely say that the three of us will return for 2025. Yeah.
hmm.
I think
Nodding
so.
yes, nodding yes, nodding yes, yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's move on to a brief comics recommendation. So I had mentioned that I purchased an Akira comic. Now, Christian, you had kind of teased something
Oh
you
yeah.
purchased. Why don't you tell
More
us what you got?
Akira.
Yay, more Akira.
Yeah, I got more Akira. More for my Akira collection because graphic novels were like all like 25 to 50% off.
Mm,
So I should have picked up a couple more volumes, but I'm midway through my Akira reading journey, so pick
excellent.
up the next one. And
So
Akira's
now you bought volume four this past weekend, right?
mhm,
Okay. And you had previously purchased one through three and read one through three?
correct. Yeah.
Okay. So why don't you tell us about
Yeah.
volumes one through three? Now I'm curious because I've seen the movie many times and I love it, but I've never read any Akira. So tell us
It
about it.
the movie it's kind of funny where it divulges it or I guess diverts pretty quickly
Mm,
because the
mhm,
movie pretty much covers volume one and then adds an ending to that. It's as if volume one and volume two are Akira and then they throw on an ending.
okay.
Whereas you have the sports dome, yeah, the big sports dome and Kaneda try having the big gun trying to kill Tetsuo. Like
Hmm.
that happens like I remember reading, I was like, wait, this is happening now? I thought they would.
Yeah.
So Akira is much more of a character. You know how he's like the little boy that's trapped in the dome that's responsible for the big um nuclear explosion that blows up Tokyo.
Hmm.
And so in that one, like he doesn't say much. But he doesn't show up at the very end or in like very little spots. He's like an actual kid that pretty much all these different forces are fighting over. You have the government, you have revolutionaries, you have Kaneda, and everyone's trying to get this kid that's pretty much the key to life itself and causes. And if he gets too upset or if something happens to him, he could just explode and destroy the entire city again. So he is like a literal walking nuclear bomb. And everybody is fighting over him, all these different forces. So that makes up volume 2 and 3, as well as they kind of get it more into your characters. Akira is, a pretty short film. It's only like 90 minutes. So it's cool to see it really like expand, as well as the art is spectacular. The art is pretty top notch. And I think there's not a lot of dialogue. There's very little dialogue in Akira. It's mostly told in pictures, massive sprawling pictures of cityscapes, action, like it's so meticulously made that it's pretty amazing, especially because it's just done by one guy. It's one guy.
Yeah.
So I'm very jealous that you picked it up in that, single comic issue form because I didn't know that existed. That's such a cool find.
Right on. So perhaps one day you can have the full collected works and I'll have the full single issue run.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Of course, the volumes are so large. Like that would be such a big amount of single issues.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a lot. Okay, so awesome recommendation, and it does kind of fit with our weekend at WonderCon. And with that, we can wrap up the episode. This is farewell from Henry, Porfirio, and Christian.